marriages. Now, Jacob had 12 boys. How many boys did he have? 12 boys. And among one of them was a young lad called Joseph. He got Joseph when he was very old, when he was about 91 years old. And he had Joseph with his beloved wife, Rachel. And the Bible tells us that Jacob loved Joseph. And he loved him so much that one day he gave him a coat of many colors, a beautiful coat. And he said, Joseph, my boy, my beloved, this is yours. And so Joseph put on the coat, and he loved that coat of many colors. It was vibrant and bright. But oh boy, his other brothers didn't like it too much. His older brothers, in fact, they said, man, Daddy, he favors Joseph over us. He loves Joseph more than us. But do you think that Jacob loved Joseph more than the rest? No, right? But he had a special place in his heart for Joseph. Now, one day Joseph got a dream. And he dreamt that as they were out in the field gathering their sheaves, that behold, his brother's sheaves, they all bowed down to his own, and his own stood upright. And then he got another dream about how the sun and the moon and 11 stars bowing down to him. And each time he told his brothers and his family about the dream, they were more angered. In fact, they said, I can't stand this boy Joseph. What do you mean to tell us that we're going to be bowing down to you? You're the youngest among us. What are you talking about? And every day they would make Joseph's life hard. But Joseph, being the loving boy he was, he still did his chores. He still did what he had to do. And the Bible tells us that one day, as the other brothers were out in the field, that his father called him, Joseph, come boy. I want you to take lunch for your brothers. They're over in Shechem looking after the flock. And Joseph said, yes, Father. And he took the provision and he went down to greet his brothers, to go check on them. And the brothers, when they saw him afar off, they said, look on the boy coming. I can't stand him. He thinks he's better than us. Let's get rid of him. Let's kill him. But luckily, Reuben said, no, we don't want his blood on his hands. Let's throw him in the pit over there. And so when Joseph got close by, they grabbed him and they threw him in the pit. How do you think Joseph felt? He was very sad. He was very sad. But to hasten the story along, they ended up selling his brother to slavery. And they cooked a little story and told the dad, Father Jacob, that look, some ravenous beast came and slew Jacob. And look at his coat. Only the blood that's on there. And of course, Jacob was very sad. He cried for his boys. Years went by, and Joseph ended up in Egypt. And he had a lot of struggles. His first job, his master's wife accused him of something that he didn't do. He ended up in jail again. Whilst in jail, he, through the provisions of the Lord, interpreted two dreams, one for a butler and one for a baker. And in that dream, he told the butler that, look, you're going to get your job back after 3 days. But for the baker, you are going to lose your life. And he said, be careful. Make sure you remember me to the butler when you go out. Of course, the dream came true, the baker died, and the butler, he got his job back. But life was good for that butler, and he forgot about little old Joseph. Years went by, and Pharaoh had a dream. And everybody was frantic because nobody knew what the dream meant. And the butler remembered Joseph was able to tell him the meaning of the dream. And they called for Joseph. And behold, Joseph was able to interpret the dream. And when Pharaoh heard that, Pharaoh made Joseph second in command. Amen. Now, hastening the story a little bit further on. Where Jacob and his brothers lived, there was a great famine in the land. And the brothers and the father, because Rachel had died by this point, they came to Egypt to get food. When Joseph saw his brothers, do you think he was angry in his heart?
No.
Well, why shouldn't he be? His brothers sold him, and he had a rough... Well, I see some hands. Let's hear it.
Because he trusted his brothers that he will forgive them.
He forgave his brothers. That's good.
And they're still his brothers.
They're still his brothers. Okay, one more answer.
Because even though his brothers were being mean to him, he still forgave them.
He forgave them. Excellent. That tells us something, boys and girls. We are all a family. And sometimes we can be unkind to each other. But Joseph's story tells us as a family we must be quick to forgive.
Amen.
We must be ready. You want to say something? Go ahead.
Something says in the Bible that to always forgive your enemies.
Exactly. And in fact, Joseph didn't see his brothers as enemies. They were still his family. And that's an example for you guys, for me. That sometimes you have your younger brother and mommy seems to be paying more attention to your younger brother or your younger sibling. It doesn't mean that mommy or daddy loves you less. It just means that because they're younger, they need more care at that time. So mom has to be very careful with them, right?
Yes.
But you being the older sibling, you can share love and be an example. And in fact, Jesus wants you to be a sunbeam. Be the head, an example, not the tail. He wants you to shine in everything you do or say, at home, at school, at play. Jesus wants you for a sunbeam. So, in your families, remember to be quick to forgive and always love. Is that okay?